Alrighty, this will be way easier than talking about Project 2025. We get to talk about morons on the internet. But let's get into fan art first, and then we'll get into that. First one here is from Gideon Wells. They said, I heard enough sliver slander, so I created a Neckoin sliver. I just wish I had the skill to do the concept more justice with the tail and arm blades, mimicking the expression on its empty face. Why do I have to deal with slivers both in Magic the Gathering and in Neckoins now? Why? Did you know that there's a sliver Funko Pop? Why is there a sliver Funko Pop? Why do so many people like slivers? No! Then we have another one from T.S. Smith. Just watched the video about Tennessee's hit new law where foster kids have been made much more nerve-wracking. During it, the 3D printer went haywire, so I had to make my 3D printer going, Suris, your time is nigh. I'm gonna die to my printer, apparently. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that all said, let's go ahead and get into the actual stuff I want to talk about for this video. I'll try to make this painless. So this is Dev. This is Dev. Goes by a lot of different names on the internet. Short Fat Otaku. A lot of different things associated with this individual. But there's this whole post that blew up on the internet that we need to get into to give context to this, where a person named Plant Money said, realizing that sex doesn't have to be this sacred, all-important thing and can instead just be an expression of affection between friends who are dear to one another is honestly one of the most life-changing realizations for me, surpassed only by realizing that I'm a girl. Now, the entire point of this is to say that casual sex is okay. People who engage in casual sex are valid. It's okay to do casual sex. There's nothing wrong with it. As long as you are protecting yourself from STDs and taking tests to make sure that you are okay, that's all that really matters. It's consenting adults doing things that don't harm other consenting adults. At least you would think that would be the response here. Oh no, this post blew the fuck up. Apparently even Kaiser Neko, dude who voices in Dragon Ball Z Abridged, ended up having to come in and give their 2 cents about why people lambasting this person were wrong. But, then this part happened. This is how we got the current discourse on PrEP, which is an anti-HIV medication that you can take that is not different in function than, say, how a vaccine works. Not in the specific mechanics, but in that it's a preventative measure you take when you know that you are going to engage in something that has a risk factor involved. For instance, if you work out in the public, you probably get a flu vaccine or a COVID vaccine, you know, because there's a risk factor involved with working out in the public. It's one of the reasons that before I went to TMG before I got a booster shot, because the last thing I wanted to do was to get fucking COVID from 6,000 nerds who don't know how to wash their asses. And trust me, they don't. When you go to a convention, the first thing you will notice is that there are certain pockets of people that smell fine, and there are certain pockets of people that don't smell like people. They don't smell like people. These people have hotel showers, and I feel like they're allergic to them. And no, there is no amount of spoons discourse that I will ever accept in the human hygiene department. Go fucking shower if you're out in public. I don't want to hear, and I never want to hear, oh, no, I couldn't do it. I didn't have enough spoons. It's not ableist to ask you to go shower. Just shower. Just take care of your body. It's your health, and it's our noses. Anyway, that's my... that is my first thing. If you have the spoons to go to a con, you have the spoons to take a fucking shower and to use Speed Stick. You do. It's okay. I came back from convention, so I am gonna have... that is always going to be a thing that I will rant about. I play enough Magic the Gathering at a card shop to desperately want to screech to the high heavens, people should shower. I went to the card shop today because my mental faculties weren't the greatest, and I needed to take a moment before starting stream. And I went in, and as I walked in, this person was walking by the product and just wafted back to me. And I swear to God, I wanted to say something very loudly and very mean, but I chose not to. Sylvie says, I get really uncomfortable whenever I feel icky and haven't showered. I can't fathom why some people don't when they very clearly can. Yeah, just look, if a shower is too much, take a bath. If the bath is too much, take a sponge bath. If a sponge bath is too much, don't go outside. Don't go outside at that point. Please, go bathe. Bathing is important. Anyway, that rant out of the... that rant out of the way. So... Person Mia goes, aren't we in another AIDS epidemic or something? Y'all are seriously tripping. So, let's go ahead and get one thing out of the way. Casual sex doesn't lead to AIDS. That's been a myth for a very long time. Unprotected, untested sex leads to AIDS. If the person involved already has it. See, that's the thing. Somebody has to be a vector for AIDS in the first place before AIDS can spread. And if everybody is getting tested like they should when you're having casual sex, and not only are those people getting tested, but they are also making certain that they are wearing protection just in case they are asymptomatic for something, they will be fine. They will be fine. I have no STDs, and I've been to a swingers party. It's okay. But then the original person behind the post, she says, I literally take pills every day to make it so I can't contract HIV. So this is where we get the PrEP discourse. Now a bunch of people are talking about PrEP and HIV medication. A lot of people didn't even know that there was preventative medication that you could take to help, you know, prevent you from spreading HIV and to lower the symptoms of HIV. We really suck at educating people about this. We truly and honestly do. But then this part of the discourse happened. This is where Dev came in and decided that he wanted to spout some stupid shit. And don't get me wrong, this thread gets very stupid. Deb says, you need to take pills to not contract HIV? You can't just not have sex with people who have HIV? So, let's go ahead and get a few things out of the way here. Dev. First of all, people who have HIV don't necessarily always know that they have it. In fact, our government's actually made certain that HIV epidemics get worse, and only recently have we taken any measures to make sure that they do not get worse. Remember in California when knowingly spreading HIV was considered a federal or a felony? Do you remember that? Then that changed into being a misdemeanor, and a whole bunch of conservatives freaked the fuck out about that, about how that was a bad thing, and then suddenly the AIDS rates in California went down because more people could get tested. Because it turns out the part of the language that mattered was knowingly spreading HIV. So, turns out, by lowering the federal punishments for knowingly spreading HIV, you incentivize people to know whether or not they have it more often, as opposed to playing coy over whether or not they have it, because the legal part is knowing, and as long as they didn't know it, then half the battle's already solved. They didn't have to worry about being legally prosecuted. So we've gotten a little better about this, but this idea that abstinence is the best way of solving any type of STD issue is also very stupid. There's other ways people can get STDs besides sex, and it's infinitely better to recognize the validity of people who are going to go and engage in casual sex in any case, and instead educate them on how to engage in safer sex. Making sure that people understand how to get tested, where to get tested. Hey, did you know that it's actually easier and cheaper to get tested for HIV, not at a wellness clinic that's going to charge you about $200 to $300 for the blood work, but instead at a place known only for giving abortions? Did you know that? That's a very important bit of information for some people. It's better to go to an abortion clinic to get tested for STDs if you are on a budget, because they do things like STD testings and mammograms and all kinds of things at a much lower cost to the individual, in many cases free, than trying to go elsewhere, than trying to go at a Minute Clinic or a CVS or wherever the hell you end up going. So Making sure that people are educated that they can get tested to know whether or not they are clean and can engage in sex without too much issues. And if they do engage in sex, are you then saying that people who have contracted an STD should not engage in sexual intercourse with their partners? Are you saying that those people should never, if they are in a relationship with somebody, engage in sex with that person? And if they are with that person should not be able to engage in sex with somebody else afterwards. That's unrealistic. Recognizing that adults are going to do the sex thing is a lot more important than trying to pretend that they are not going to do so. So instead, making certain that people who want to engage in sex know how to get tested, where to get tested, how to do it cheaply, and if they are tested, what medications they can take to make sure that they don't spread it. That's far more important and far more useful than doing this abstinence-only thing that statistically has always failed. But apparently, Dev went a little viral with this post, so then started doing not really damage control, more copium. Saying there's a lot of irrationally fucking degen people here for some inexplicable reason are getting really angry over the simple statement, if you don't have sex with everybody. No, Dev, nobody... You didn't say don't have sex with everybody. You said people with HIV shouldn't have sex, or people shouldn't have sex with people with HIV, which, again, is completely solved if everybody is engaging in best practices when it comes to sex. You've shifted the goalpost. That wasn't your statement. Never was. So this creates a larger conversation over sex positivity and validity. There's also another person, or type of person, who's completely left out of this conversation from the get-go, and that's sex workers. So what about people who are sex workers, who take on clients en masse? Sometimes it's okay, and sometimes it is reasonable for the sex worker to have a clean bill of health from every person that they engage with, but depending on how seedy your industry is in sex work, that may not be an option that you have, in which case preventative protective measures end up being far more important and useful for people in those situations. And if you want to say, just don't engage in sex work, I would love to agree with you. Sex work is an exploitative industry that I really wish was better regulated as opposed to just thrown into the seedy back alleys of the world. The problem that we run into is that capitalism, as it is making it harder and harder for people to live any kind of functional life. Minimum wage has not moved in decades to anything that fucking matters. The actual cost of living has continued to go up at a far faster rate than people's average median wages have, not even counting minimum wage, people who have engaged in that conversation for ages. So what do people do in this situation? Well, many of them end up turning to sex work. This is actually one of the reasons a lot of trans people turn to sex work, because turns out if you're in the American South, after you transition, it may be very hard for you to get a job, because now a place that is riddled with discrimination may prevent you from being able to engage in the workplace in any healthy way. So a lot of trans people end up turning to sex work because it becomes one of the only options they have to survive. If they run out of options in their local area, call centers end up being another option that you have, but this is a world where you might be setting your applications in for weeks and weeks, sometimes even months, before even getting one of those jobs. In the meantime, what do you do to survive? And that's where sex work comes in for a lot of people. For some people, sex work can be as easy as just making sure they have a bunch of OnlyFans photos ready to go. And I say easy in comparison to actually going out and engaging in sexual activities with clients, because that's where the danger ends up being. Are we going to say that those people don't deserve to have their jobs? I'd love to have a world where sex work as a job could be eliminated potentially, but we don't live in that world. Just like we don't live in a world where jobs in the military can be eliminated. So people can and will engage in those jobs where they can, exploitative as they may or may not be. As much as I would like factory positions that do nothing but drain a person's soul away could be eliminated. Engineering positions that aren't actually engineering positions, but are actually just looking at a set of blueprints and saying yes or no, and that's it. I wish that a lot of these middle-manning positions didn't have to exist. But as it stands right now, people need to be able to survive. So sex work is one of the things people are going to use. So it's not whether or not somebody should have sex with everybody, it's what works better. Abstinence-only conversations or conversations about educating people on sex. And what we have found in states that have mostly abstinence-only conversations in school, rates of teen pregnancy and STDs skyrocket, whereas states that have more robust sexual education tend to have lower rates of teen pregnancy, teen abortion, and teen STDs. What this tells me, what I can extrapolate from that data, is that it is far more useful, especially with adults that are going to do whatever the fuck they want to do, and whoever the fuck they want to do. It's far better to focus on educating people on how to operate safely and to also destigmatize people who try to operate safely. Try telling anybody that you've engaged in swinging or you've been a swinger randomly, and they are going to freak the hell out. Just like people used to freak the hell out if you said that you were gay. We need to destigmatize sex. We need to demystify sex. Sex can be this super all-important keystone of a relationship, or it can be something that you just engage in for fun. I'm demisexual, so I don't get to do the casual sex thing. I learned that I can't do it from being in a swingers party. I learned that's not a thing I can do the hard way, literally, trial by fire. But there are people who can, and for the people who can, why would we fight hard to take it away from them or stigmatize them and basically just call them sluts and shit for not being like you? It goes on in the thread saying the quote retweets are full of arslers who are desperately making excuses as to why they have to fuck everybody they know and how bigoted it is for me to even question it. I solved this problem by getting a normal girlfriend and having a normal monogamous relationship. So this would mean that polyamorous relationships, which tend to be a lot more loosey-goosey with partners coming in and out, I mean, depending on the polyamorous relationship, are these relationships not valid? What should happen in those ones? Do we just continue to stigmatize those ones and delegitimize them? And again, what about swingers? What about people who are working in sex work fields? What do we do then? And what about people who got HIV not from engaging in promiscuous sex, but from having it from their parents, or getting a dirty needle that they didn't mean to get? There's plenty of situations where this happens, where people contract something like HIV, not because they have engaged in slutty behavior, but literally just by existing. There are people who have been born with it because their parents had it, because of any myriad of issues then. What do we do then? Do those people not deserve to be in loving relationships where sex is involved? When there are fucking options for them? Like PrEP? Do we just pretend these people don't deserve to have the same quality of life as you do? Even when there are options that allow them to have that same quality of life? Why? Why is that the case? Going further in the thread says it's been 24 hours. People are still irrationally, unreasonably angry at the idea that you don't have to fuck everybody. Again, that's not what you said. Let's return to here. You need to take pills to contract HIV. You can't just not have sex with people who have HIV. This is your goalpost. Not having sex with people who have HIV. Which, again, isn't even a good point in the first place, because medicine has progressed past the point where we just let people with HIV die on hospital beds. We have progressed further as a society. Maybe you should have caught the fuck up, Dev. But that's basically been that. Sex work is valid work. It is using your body in the exact same way and being exploited in the exact same way as any other industry. And as long as those industries are problematic, we're gonna have to deal with sex work being a thing as well. It's also literally one of the oldest industries in America. trying to stigmatize people who engage in these fields, trying to stigmatize people who are able to have casual sex, trying to stigmatize people who engage in swinging or who are polyamorous. It doesn't make any sense to me. All it does is point a target at a bunch of people that you think are worse than you, because you feel like you're better than those people. And while you may argue that's not what you said, don't worry, you defended a position you didn't say in the first place anyway. So I think we're on even ground right now. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I just wanted to dunk on this person. Oh, by the way, if you don't believe that there is specifically dunking on people who are not monogamous in here, the end of the thread is literally monogamoids stay winning, bug spreaders seething. I wonder if Dev realizes that there actually is a section of people in the kink community called bug chasers that actively look for STDs and try to get them wherever they can. They're weird and stupid, and I'm perfectly fine kink shaming them, but they do exist. Trying to paint everybody who is polyamorous, a sex worker, or a swinger, or just somebody who can engage in casual sex just fine as one of these other kinks that we actually understand, with a really soft version of understand, is just plain stupid. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments section below. Insert end of video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie-chan, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.